Hello, Challenge Innovators. This is David Linton with Bigelow again with our last video. I know you're going to miss me when I'm gone. This is number 6, and if you recall in the first 5, we started with dimensioning the private transaction market. Then we talked about the 4 kinds of investors for this market. We talked about our Kaizen, or the way that the tools we use to develop the universe of prospective investors to evaluate. We talked about our investor funnel in number 4, how we go through curating and evaluating the universe. And then number 5 was really showing you where the pony is in all this. The inefficiency of this market and the fact that there is such a wide divergent view of value among these investors of the same company. This last video is to give you kind of something to pull it all together and give you a real life case study. So there's a total of 5 slides that relate to this. You can read them on your own, that highlight this company we call ABC Industrial Supply. This is a real life Bigelow client, a couple of owners that own the business for a number of years, literally 90 years, multi-generational family business that developed this great company, basically being a distributor of packaged gas. So think about those cylinders you see in those trucks running around. That was the business they were in. They had a bunch of different branch locations in a region of the country. This is, as you can see, a very, very large market. Just in New England, there was $1 billion of industrial packaged gas used on an annual basis. But yet there was a fair amount of fragmentation of the market. There were a number of players, individual operators in the business, so no real dominant player. So we're going to take you through this and kind of show you what we work with. So this is a financial representation of their performance. You can see that this is a business that performed very, very well, grew modestly over their history when we represented them for sale, had nice high profit and good margins. And so this is data, by the way, that we can access. So as you think about data set usage, this is the kind of data we can have. Obviously, this is on our client, but whether they're private or public, we get access to this kind of information. And really, our question when we pull this information together in the back of our heads always is, who's going to see or perceive the highest value for our friends at ABC in their business? This is a depiction of the industry landscape, or if you will, how the industry is constructed, those who are suppliers of industrial gas. And you can see basically the takeaway here is that it's a good, steady, mature industry, growing at kind of 3-6%, GMP kind of level of growth. And what's interesting is there's no real dominant player. There are 4 or 5 that have aggregated the industry and basically done a lot of acquisitions of businesses like our client company. So they're certainly going to be on the list. But who else might be interested in our kind of client company? So you can see that it's highly, highly fragmented. So this is the actual funnel in our methodology. You can see we researched and identified over 500 prospective investors to evaluate. We had 54 no-name discussions, meaning we didn't share who our client was or anything about our client. We were really interviewing the prospective investors to understand their acquisition criteria and where their priorities were in their strategy, to then make an assessment of how good a fit that was with what our client company represented. Then we had stage disclosure under an NDA where we shared information with them, and you can see 24 companies made that group. So we've gone from 500 to 54 to 24. We're actually sharing a lot of information with back and forth. And then finally, from that, we solicited and received 14 initial indications of interest. 5 from the strategic buyers, 7 from private equity companies, and then 2 from private equity platform companies. And again, what we're really trying to do is get down to a real manageable group, in this case 4 that our client selects and handpicks to meet with, and then ultimately they choose the one finalist that they proceed forward with and do a transaction with. And here's where the pony is. This is how the investors who made indications of interest, those 14 companies, concluded were their perceived values. So the sample set, again, you can see is 14 different prospective investors. You can see that the spread was, a total of 96% from the lowest to the highest. That's quite a wide diverse view on value, isn't it? And then again, just to use our easy kind of math, if the median at 0 was 100 million in this case, one of the strategics perceived $172 million of value for this business out here on that tail we're desperately trying to get to. And then down here at the lower end, you've got a cluster of largely private equity firms that are seeing more like 76 million of value for the business. So a widespread in this case. Interesting to us was, if you look out here on this tail, sorry about that, you can see that the strategics really were the ones who perceived the highest value for this particular kind of business. That's not always the case. It's interesting to us. We can never predict in advance who's going to perceive the highest value. You may say, wow, 1 + 1 = 3 for a strategic investor because of all the synergies, but then we get fooled by a private equity investor coming in with a higher bid. So that's really the result of our activity. We just wanted to give you a real case study to bring it all together. And now we really encourage you to dig in, think creatively, and help us with, again, thought process and solutions around automating this process, taking out obvious subjective bias through our prior experience that we apply, and really trying to help us with aggregating a universe that brings in these companies that will be out on the fat end of the tail, because that unlocks the highest value for our clients. And then these entrepreneurs go on and do great things in our society with their philanthropy, funding other businesses. It's really the engine behind our system. So we're excited to get your input, your thoughts, and your submissions, and look forward to reviewing them.